Hello, everybody. If you're here and I'm not, I'm excuse me, putting up some signs. I'll be right back, and let me know if the video and the audio and everything is working okay. Be back in a second. What do you guys want to talk about? Let me know. One sec. Be back. Hey, Alberto, Tony, how you guys doing? Oh, good. Everything's working okay. Be right back. Got to put some flyers out. Okie dokie doke. Hey guys, hi Brian. Hi Brian, Brian and Brian. Is there an echo? Hang on a second. Let me put up some more of these things and see how many people I can bother. I give up. That's all. Okay. Hi, aristocratic. How you doing? How are things in Asheville? Guys dried out now, I hope. 9/11. Good to see you, Duncan. Have a woolly jumper. You must be from England. Oh, Ireland. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, no, we it's starting to be fall here, so I inside and out. Our house is ever since we stuck this new system in, our house has always been cool. So I could wear a sweater on all the time. It's just because just a just nice and cool in here. Okie doke. So you guys, what would be a good thing that we could kick around? How was Warren and Juan for all that attended? Yeah, how was Warren and Wound? Anybody go to that? I was at the Watch Time show. I can tell you about that. But Warren and Wound, I miss that. You know, there are a lot of things that I miss when I go there. Friday night, in fact, we got other kinds of things there. I think Brian will understand this. He had family matters to attend to, couldn't make the meeting. So, hi, Michael. How you doing? How was watch time? You know what? If I were a reporter, a watch reporter, I'd be the worst watch reporter on the world. What happened was that I kept talking to people. I met people. I met the most wonderful people, collectors. Um, the, the thing that struck me is that there seemed to be a lot of stuff was going on their side, so it's sort of hard to say. Yeah, I got out of town all right. Hi, Ray. Anyway, what happened was that when I went to talk to people, it was like I think a lot of stuff has to be reoriented. Now, if I were Swiss and running a Swiss watch company and I'm getting these things with 39% tariffs, I'd start reoriented right away. Like, what's going on in Malaysia or, where's someplace else to sell watches. And, but, by the same token, there was so much, there seemed to be nobody seemed to be interested in doing different kinds of things. And there was this one outfit I talked to. They had well, this is Zenith and their 135, and I thought, wow, okay. Now you can go online. You can go to Chrono 24, I think, probably a lot of other places too. And you can find a Zenith 135 watch. In other words, a watch with a 135, which is a wonderful movement, great big old balance wheel, and it's got 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour, just a sweet, sweet movement. So what they did, and you can pick one up for maybe around 4,000 or 5,000, okay? With whatever tax or tariff they're going to put on them. It depends on where you are and where they're coming from. So, so I started talking to them and said, that might be something for here. You got this movement, and would you be interested in selling 100 of them at a whack? Yeah, just and they looked at me like, well, yeah, but for 48,000 48,000 Swiss francs a pop. I thought, I said, well, this would be a situation where you wouldn't have warehousing, you wouldn't have advertising costs, you wouldn't have discounts for the retailer, and you just get it. It would really make. Well, we're thinking about price points, and it's sort of like, yeah, that's important to keep in business, but it just sort of didn't seem to be. And then I got really excited. I went over to Bell and Ross and started talking to those guys, and the guys at Bell and Ross. I said, tell me something. Uh, you guys are now owned by, Chanel, they have been for some time, and I said, "Tell me, is Chanel does Chanel have any plans that you know about for putting in these new high horology movements that they're working on?" I mean, they set up a whole new factory in, La Chaux-de-Fonds, and, they've got beside the one I've got on my, Chanel Monsieur, they have them. I think they've made a total of, 8 movements now. One of them is for the men's watch, and all of the other ones are for women's watch, and I thought, "Well, this would be a great, way to use their movements for, for something, and maybe would bring them in. They're already all of the research is done and all of the development costs are done. Maybe, take one of them and pop them into, Bell& and Ross and sort of have a upscale Bell& and Ross." And they acted like I was like, why would we do that?" I said, "Well, I saw some of the watches you had were, way up there price-wise." Well, they pointed over here and they had 3 watches by I don't know who did them, but they were really expensive. And, you guys, all right. Now, I can understand if I had a job working for a watch company and I valued my job, I wouldn't wanna rock any boats either. I figure, okay, here's some wise guy that comes along and is some wheeler dealer and stuff. S But there was sort of like, hmm, just sort of funny like that. Yeah, exactly, Brian, 48,000 or 4,800. Good point. Alberto, oh, Casapi. Yeah, but see, Casapi is at, Tag Heuer, and, Chanel is I think they're sort of a lot of the parts and a lot of the style they get from Romain Gaultier because they own part of Romain Gaultier. God knows they may be doing something with FP Journe too. They sunk some money in that. Who knows? But I mean, there let's face it, there's only so many people who can plunk down 50,000 bucks. There are a lot more who can plunk down 10,000, even more that was 5,000. But, if you can do it in a wholesale say, "Hey, you guys, here are a bunch of guys that want that watch." You know, yeah, things are rough right now. I mean, very much so. So because of that, now is the time, I think, for companies to rethink these. Now, my own opinion is I love working with Agenor. They're very creative. I mean, we've got like 4 watches right now and 4 different movements. You know? So, I mean, they're handmade, and that makes a big difference. But anyway, okay, let's see what you guys got. First, vendors want us to be interested in their new current offering. Second, you must have been talking to the wrong people to truly make a deal. Well, I wasn't trying to make a deal, really. I just was asking about, well, what about them? Trying to, there was, I think at one time when things weren't going smoothly with the Hamatic, Moritz Grossman was a little more interested. Now they're not interested anymore. But, you want to keep an open mind. Things may change in a lot of different ways. Anyone buying Bell and Ross expensive watch, and they definitely do any research. Yeah, no kidding. Okay. I don't know, Michael, let me see. Michael, you had asked the question, what about the thing? But the best part was meeting people. My God, I'll tell you, that's why I'm such a lousy reporter. I kept running into people, and we were just yakking, 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 talking about different things. Um, there was this couple, a really fun couple from Florida, from St. Augustine, Florida, which is one of my favorite towns anywhere. And they were the ones who had bought that Armand Strom from the Real Real, and had found out that it was a mess, and they had told me about it. And I told everybody else about it after first recommending it as his goodbye. And then I think his name was Jeff. I think it was Jeff. Not positive. Anyway, so I said, "Well, what kind of watch you got?" So he showed me the Armand Strom he had, and it was what a sort of an upscale one. Beautiful watch. God, that's just I love Armand Strom watches. They're expensive though. So anyway, I can tell you 9/11. Abdul lives in the Black Forest. Hey, yeah, that's the other thing, Abdul, about the horological value. I didn't. Oh, let me tell you, there was one place I did look that was sort of interesting, and this was Leica watches. Now, Leica, you probably know Leica's from making cameras, Leica cameras. And so I talked to the guy, and he was going on and on and on. And he says, "And this thing works something like a camera, and it's based on a lens or something like that." And it's okay. And so I was looking at it, the movement. Oh boy, let's see what they got. Yeah, 28,800 to 4K, 4 hertz movement. Like, oh, I was hoping for something more fun in it. The one with the really cool movement was the one from Zenith, which just surprised me because Zenith and Defy Labs have been trying to catch 32,000 hertz in a quartz watch. They're up to 5 hertz, but anyway, um, was Nomos there? I don't, Brian. I don't. I tell you, I really, like I said, it was like every time I turn around, I would run into somebody different. All of us were supposed to meet up on the mezzanine at 7 o'clock. I ended up there early and then came back down, and I couldn't get back up there until 7:30. I kept bouncing into people. I talked to Malin, Bertram Malin. This is Edward's brother. Cool guy, really nice guy. But I was looking, ask him about some things. Said, "Hey, what if we had some, getting Agenor watch movements, and then working with you guys for maybe to put in something." And he said, "No, they got some kind of motor in their movement." He said, "All of ours have this motor, something or other." Okay, but he was super nice guy. Any brands that stood out for upcoming collabs? Abdul, that was what was disappointing. Just nothing. Um, there there was um, there was some, like I said, that Leica was sort of interesting. Another one that I liked, just, and this is looking at the primarily looking at the Mubus, was Angelus. And I think they're owned by Citizen, but I'm not positive. Like I said, there was so many people, and there was so much going on. Excuse me. Um, I stopped by and to say hi to Mike Margolis, who is the U.S. rep for Chopec, and was looking at their watches, and they're nice watches. I liked the one. They had this one where they did all of these little finger bridges to the movements, and that's a nice looking watch. 4 hertz. I think uh, it, it's hard to see because I think you know, you have um, all of these different things there that are going on, but I think one of the things that we can do, like this is just Larique, working with Agenor, is that all of them are handmade. There's a big difference between having sort of an assembly line and you put all of your Rolexes or your Zeniths or your Omegas and out they go. And they're all done the same, they're all done really well. And now they're going to stick in those silicone hairsprings. Nothing you can do about that. Um, did I meet Ute and Lana? Yeah, I I didn't. I had made up my mind before when I wasn't going to bug them about our dials. That was it. Wrote him and the other guys along another email this morning. Talk about commitment, responsibility, and integrity. So now they're getting lectured. He was, it's one of those things that's, he's sort of one of these guys that when you get too busy with everything, sometimes nothing gets done well. I think he's sort of trying to get out of that right now. Hi, David. Like, this is a can dual hat. Oh, well, thank you, David. Let's see. Did you ask Christine Hunter about a 10K Hematic? Yeah, I did. 9/11. That was she was, like I said, there seemed to be a shift right now, and I think they're going to be looking a lot harder at the Asian market, and for selling stuff, you know, we might be looking more at the Asian market for buying stuff. Um, I don't know. Yeah, Abdul, to me is that they're when they're more well, yeah, 3 hertz. To me, there aren't as many 3 hertz. 4 hertz is sort of the standard. Some like Defy Labs and Zenith are going to 5, but I don't. I the trend I see is that the craftsmanship is going to 2.5 and 3, whereas the you know production guys are going to 4. Jared Flicken there from Cincinnati Watch Company. If he was, I didn't meet him. I'll tell you, Brian, I just kept running into people and ended up talking to them. These are like a lot of collectors, and all of us when we went up to the up to up to the mezzanine, they had done something different. I wasn't sure about that. Now I know how they're running it. They have this dinner. If you want to have dinner with Carrie Boot and Lana and a couple other people, I guess, of note, you can pay $755, and that was part of the have dinner. Oh man, there are too many places in New York that you can have just unbelievable. They got nothing but good food there. I must have gained 10 pounds. Just Hi, Tim. How you doing? Well, Abdul, it's worse than that. We're just not getting this stuff that we're owed. I mean, even given the sort of lesser than they should be, they're not even delivering those. No, I Michael, I he had he wanted to see people and be the famous watchmaker and, a bunch of people going up there and like, "Oh my goodness, look at I get to meet this guy." And what I wanted to go up there is get off your, get get us our dials. So I sort of made a decision that I'm not gonna harass the guy. I went up, shook my hand, said hi, and now go away. This morning I got off a good letter to him after looking into Scandinavian values and their importance. Hey, Fernie. Yeah, there you go, Fernando. The big watch case, that's a good point, Brian, but I didn't notice it. I was like like I said, I'm the worst watch reporter you've ever seen because I kept talking to people. I mean, I had, I look at a watch, took a few pictures and so forth, but then most of the watches I looked at said, "What do you got?" So I we were showing each other. I had my Lurique Etude number 2 with my Ming bracelet, and those are, geez, oh, so that's what that's what our E2s look like that I bought 2 years ago, something like that. But it was like, I think the whole purpose of it, more so is there's business that's possible there, but, coming to think of it, it's like they have a plan. And I mean, and they have to. The business people have to have a plan, and they've gotta execute that plan, and their focus is on selling watches, that's what it should be. But at the same time, there was the I it just it was sort of a funny kind of thing in that respect. I think that, um, I enjoy talking to other collectors and just sort of yakking it up with somebody off on the side, then because you're getting the poor guy selling watches, he got the same spiel for everybody. "Oh, this is our thing," and yada, 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 and, they recording, this is a recording. And when you sort of go off of that track a little, like when I started talking to there were a bunch of gals at the, Bell& and Ross, and that's when I started asking them about those things, and they looked at me like, "That wasn't on our list of we don't have an answer for that, and so we don't wanna talk about it, and what are you, a troublemaker?" I said, "Oh, no, no." I said, "You have very nice watches," and walk away. Um, I think I I don't know how the or where the whole thing is going right now. Um, Sometimes there's a period of really innovation, and other times there's a period of like, let's not do anything new while we're in this time of flux. And I think that's what it was, and I could be wrong, but that was sort of the sense I got rather than the opposite. Oh, we're in a time of flux. Now's the time to try something new. It's 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 interesting. Yeah, Finnegan the ninja, no chance. Hello, Jeffrey. Ray, I'll tell you, I've got a lot to say about that, Ray, about frequency, and they're the future of what? I don't. I think there's certain things that you do not because it's the most efficient thing. If I wanted the most efficient time machine that I could put on my wrist, I'd get an Apple Watch. That's it. And it would be far better than anything I could probably ever get from mechanical watches. But efficiency, how can you have talk about efficiency in a centuries old technology when you got a brand new watch that is, you put up at night and it tells you how far you walked, what your, it tells you everything and where you are and where you want to go and all of that. Uh, my wife has one. She has her watch, smart watch, and she gets a call and a watch. She's like, Dick Tracy. Oh, wait a minute, I got to get to my phone. you know, I don't know what she's doing. But on the other hand, the whole essence of a mechanical watch is something else. For years, I drove a stick shift. Okay, it's not because I'm so old that that was all I could have, but rather is something to do, and you could feel a car. I had a done a my first car was a '55 Volkswagen Bug, and for that thing, then I had a '51 Chevy like that. Always something to do. My new car is like so smart, it's almost scary. I get in my new car, I put in the speed limit, drives the speed limit, and then when the speed limit changes, it changes. It'll either go up or down. And if I'm behind a car and a car slows down, my car automatically slows down. There's not the same amount of fun as and I don't know. I like my new car, but it's like because I'm getting lazier. It's not my hobby. If it were, I'd get a stick shift. I sort of feel the same way. The more connection you have to a mechanical watch, which includes a regulator that you can fool around with or think you can fool around with, that works okay too. But the the efficiency, if you're just looking for efficiency, then get a smartwatch or even a quartz watch. They're 10 times more efficient than what we have. That's sort of I've got a lot more to say about that. Yeah, okay, complications, Abdul. Yeah, I like those too. Hi, Ronaldo. Sometimes company focus on milking, right? I don't know. I'll tell you, where a market is, if the market is a very small one of certain types of collectors, that's a rough market because what collectors want is oftentimes very different than what an an efficient watch company would. I mean, who is the market to? And if you answer that now, apparently some people want Rolex no matter what, and that's a Rolex market. I was in the boutique that they had at Vacheron Constantin, the new one it's on I think 57th and Madison, near the corner of that. And you go in there, and to my surprise, it seemed very small. It was sort of a small area, and then they had an upstairs area. Um, and looking at the watches that they had, they were nice, and there were a couple guys in there looking at watches, and they were Wall Street types or something. Me, I'm not a Wall Street type. Um, and they got wonderful watches, and I had my, Mercator there. God, I tell you, the Mercator, that thing is well loved. I'm glad I took it. And that's a watch I mean, here's a watch that's totally impractical. But where's my Mercator? It's over there. Here you've got this a time thing with these map compasses that this is a Mercator map, and here you go with with hands almost impossible to tell the time. Great though, you take a loop to tell the time, and as the hour hand is going one way and then the other one is going that way. More fun, really cool, and it has the design of the map on it is a Mercator. The thing that is really cool though is that you have the movement on you have one of these what I'll call a divided movement. On the bottom, you got sort of the grunt work going on, and then on the top, you have the show. And this thing has this giant snail cam for either the hour hand or the minute hand. I don't know which one. Then it has this other kind of mechanism for so here you've got this thing going like this and like this. Um, Totally innovative, but they cost a fortune. And that's, I'll tell you a company that does some interesting things like that. Um, oh, what are they? What's his name? Um, Maurice Lacroix. Take a look at some of Maurice Lacroix square squared box movements and things. They're all run by ETA movements, but they're doing some interesting things. A company called Xerox or something like that. They also have some interesting things they're doing with hands. The That kind of innovation I didn't see. I went by Fears. There's another one. Man, I tell you, I don't think anybody was, you know, I I was looking at their watches. They're nice watches. And I said, "Oh, you guys, they're a British company, I think, English. If they're Irish, I'm sorry." Um, because I don't want to offend any Irishmen. The the thing is, so I said, "Are you guys thinking of doing any of your own movements?" And they looked at me like I told them their dog died. Like, it's like, okay, here you've got this nice watch, or you have a whole series of them. They're good-looking watches, but when you stop and think what you spend 4 or 5,000 bucks on, that's a lot of money. It really is. Um, you know, it's some of those things. Ronaldo, focus on milking. I'm not sure what you mean by that. It sounds like probably there's something they're up to, but I don't know what that means. What do you think of Bulgari and Octo Finissimo range? I like them. Bulgari is it's one of those interesting brands. I got one of my sons, I got him a Roma, I think. Brand new, but they turn out to be a very big watch. The Finissimo, if you like thin ones, those are really something. So the Octo Roma though for a really good buy, 'cause you can still I think you can still find those brand new with hugely discounted. So that's my answer to that. Oh, that sounds like a fun one, Abdul, going to a microbrand festival. I think there's another Yeah, I think that worn and wound, thing was going on at the same time. But I get my wife is one of the problems that, I have going to the watch show. It's not a problem, it's sort of an opportunity. We have a daughter who has a birthday about the same time. So, my wife says, "Okay, we gotta go, take something for our daughters." We ended up going all over shopping for our daughter for her birthday. And so I couldn't go to the Saturday or Sunday one because the tickets for the Friday night one, those are for the whole weekend, and I can only go to but I like the Friday night parties. Ray, I wanna see more retrograde minute and, hour watches. Yeah, those are cool watches. That's something I think that at least I'm thinking that our next 2 watches that Larique has, both of them are gonna have retrogrades. One with a jumping hour and the other one with the retrograde seconds, and one with a retrograde Zulu hour and then a retrograde seconds. Well, 9/11, what see, this is the thing. It is Oh, I'll tell you a story. Okay. When I was in publishing, I was on the board of something called the Publishers Marketing Association. This was a group for small and medium-sized publishers, and we'd get together and talk about the different ways of marketing. And being small, it was we could things were fairly easy for us to change, and we didn't have the money or the clout or anything else, but we had flexibility, and so people were coming up with new ideas all the time, which was sort of a fun thing. And then I found I did a book with what was it called? Like Penguin or something like that. Penguin wasn't Penguin, but it was like that. I forgot the name of it. But I was told how they Bantam. It was Bantam Books. That was it. And I was told what happens, how they publish a book. First of all, the rep from Bantam would go around and talk to. This is with Barnes and Noble. Okay, they go to all the Barnes and Noble stores and they would say, what's hot right now and what's not, and then they would go out and they would, you know, get an author to write the book for them and so on and so forth. Uh, and but that was sort of a mass market. Then there are other markets like the library market, and so for a time, the hot book for library markets were ninjas. There were all these kids going there. They wanted a book on ninjas. Somebody wrote a book on ninjas, but they were the smaller publishers or medium-sized publishers could react to something like that because the library market is talking about 1 or 2,000 books where these other ones are thinking millions if they can. So in 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 watch marketing, you have sort of you have something that is what's interesting. That would be my thing. What is interesting? This is why I use the thing about my new car, my old car. My old cars, I went out of my ways. My first Mercedes, I had to really look around to get. I wanted a stick shift and finally found one, a new one, a diesel with a stick shift. It was great for that diesel. But boy, after that, I don't even know if they make them anymore. But there was always something to do, on my car. Now I just sort of sit there and, ask my car questions. In fact, I could even talk to it really seriously. Like they have a thing on it's like an iPhone, say, hey, Siri, and Siri will go get stuff for you. And I think with watches, it's a little different because at least kind of watches that are to me worth having are ones that you have some kind of craftsmanship and something about them, whether it's some innovation in the movement with constant force, some kind of interesting guilloche, has some kind of interesting aspect to them. I also like hand wound rather than automatics, even though I have I mean, yeah, I have automatics. So, how why why in the world would we want something that we can't adjust? We just sort of look at? I don't know. I got some people like that. That's fine, and I think that this is a trick for watches and watch brands. Um, right now, my God, I'll tell you, I think it was on eBay. I was looking at eBay, and it was a Rolex or something like that. A Rolex and Omega. It wasn't the kind of watches I usually look at, and it had a price. And then it showed the price that you're gonna have to pay if you're that with that 39% tariff. It's terrible. And so, it's like, wow, what is the thinking that's going on? I think, and part of the thinking is going on in Switzerland is that, man, we better start using our marketing resources elsewhere. And at least that's what I would do. I mean, because if it's nothing there, you better change. Hi, Forbin. Yeah. Something, let me ask you guys something. I've been yakking long enough. What, how do you define a micro brand? I, I, I think in terms of production, if you take an independent real watchmaker, okay, like Laurent Ferrier, for example, or F.P. Journe, or Armin Strom, Andreas Streller. You take any one of those guys, okay, or just take anybody at AHCI, all right? And the number of watches they produce are relatively small, whereas a company called a micro brand might outproduce them by a factor of two, three, four, five, but they're still considered a micro brand. And so, what's how would you distinguish between a micro brand and a non-micro brand? Abdul, the tariffs are going to make smugglers out of all of us. I got a plan for that. Before you leave, put an old strap in your suitcase. And when you get the new one, put on the old strap, put it on your wrist, and go marching through. Like, I got nothing to declare. Take care, Brian. Yeah, Michael, that I agree with that. I think the kind of sort of a somewhere in between brand would be something that, because I would like to see some group like Larique go to a place like Crenode. You can pick up a Crenode designed by Francois Mojon for around 1,000 Swiss francs. Okay, and it's an off the shelf movement, but it's not a Solita or ETA or Chinese or Japanese brand. Boy, now that would be an interesting one. Putting something like that together uh, would be for sort of a step down. The thing about Larique and working with Agenor is that all of them are bespoke, but there are some high end movements available. Just the movements. For a while, one that was available was the one that Lang and Heim had, where they had that uh, something works, DW something or the 33.1. Man, what a movement that was. That's just great. And then they pulled it off the market and put it into one of their own watches. Abdullah, if you look at you take yeah, the manufacturer, Philippe Dufour, used Metallim for his dial, and somebody else for his case. He did the movement. That's another thing, is the idea that you have to do all of the whole thing. I think the only reason that some watch companies design everything from the base movement to the case, to the everything, including the hands, when they do it all only where you can save money doing it. And this is why you had so many brands like Soprod, for example, that use the same specifications as the ETA so that they could fit into the same cases that uh, most other brands had, that instead of popping in an ETA, they would pop in one of their own, a Soprod or some other one, or something by Seiko. Yeah. Anyway, that's sort of neat. Listen, guys, I gotta go. I've been I've been thinking ever since I got back from that watch show. I've been thinking about everything about it, and a lot of stuff was going on. So thank you all, and thank you for your ideas too. Really, really liked them. And Michael, you better show up next year at the Watch Time show. Take care.